perfection. All right.
Wow.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, everybody. Hello. Good evening from the East Coast. My name's Karen from Quantum Healing with Tena Karen. I'm here today with Tina. So we're just jumping on today for a quick little live to discuss. Actually, Tina's going to pop up and read a blog that is called Steiner and the Blood Demons. So for those of you who are interested, I am really interested to hear this because it's all relevant to all the research that we've come together and have seen regarding pretty much everything that's been happening, with all the, well, you'll see. You'll see. Don't want to say too many words because, we might get censored. So we're going to go through that and we're going to have a discussion about it after and see where it leads because, we always start one way and we end up somewhere else. So, but this is the goal. We're going to try to keep it as concise as possible while she reads. She's going to actually have it popped up on the screen so you can follow from there. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. And if you have any questions, please comment. You can also like and subscribe if you wish.
Do we wait for some people to come first?
Yeah, to let us know or ask any questions. I'm going to be, while she's reading that, I will be asking the questions and I'll have some questions on my own if anything does arise. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what this blog post says, just to validate what we already have seen and perhaps add some insights to our big old puzzle.
It is a big puzzle, huh?
It's a large puzzle. And I feel like it's like when we go into sessions, we do get pieces of the puzzle that way. We get pieces from your research, you get pieces from like just the things that you find. Also validating the things that we've been seeing. So, if we don't understand what we're seeing in that moment, there in comes the validation later on. And I love when that happens. So this sounds really interesting and relevant.
And yeah, we've talked about Steiner on this channel before and the fall of the spirits of darkness, and his insights on the shots, I guess we can say, here on YouTube. That was actually one of our videos that got taken down too. So we have to be really careful, because I don't want to lose this channel, because this is how we were able to reach people here.
Yes.
At least,
Yeah. Even if we're being censored or blocked, whatever, I guess the right people are going to come in. I mean, it is to put our content out there, but at the same time, those who see it, and it doesn't really matter in the end what the statistics are, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm just going to be eaten because that's what I do when we talk about intense things. Just cope in here in the corner. I'm going to, if it gets a little too loud, I'll just put myself on mute. I open my chip bag. Yeah.
So let me share the screen.
All right. Let me just write here to the live chat. Hello to people. I don't see anyone on yet, but.
Hi, Sam. Okay. So this was written by Jason Heppenstall, from Beyond the Wasteland.
All right.
It's called Steiner and the Blood Demons. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So he asked the questions. Is the human race under spiritual attack? And did the esoteric philosopher and clairvoyant Rudolf Steiner warn about it over a century ago when he said shot would be the delivery system for the defeat of humanity?
Hashtag, yes. I bet.
Absolutely. For many, the overly authoritarian response by governments worldwide to COVID-19 pointed to some deeper, more sinister driving force. But it hasn't just been the governments that seem to be acting strange. Over the last 2 years, we've witnessed people across a broad spectrum of society meekly submit to draconian attacks on their freedoms, many even fiercely defending the assault, which we've seen everywhere. In the same way, we've seen politicians and parties who once ran on platforms of personal freedom and economic autonomy almost overnight turn into overbearing control freaks, intent on micromanaging every aspect of our lives. How has this happened?
That's a good question.
Yes. You might want to mute, babe.
Sorry, everyone. Just eating.
Recently, the term mass formation psychosis has been on everybody's lips. It's defined as a psychological phenomenon whereby a mass of people voluntarily go through a process of de-individuation and a herd mentality forms. Due to their contagious nature, the thought forms affecting these de-individuated people, catalyzed by the positive feedback loops of news programs, social media, and peer interaction, spread like wildfire throughout the population. In the past, this used to be called mob psychology, or more plainly, the madness of crowds. So this is what we're seeing in the collective now. It feels like almost like everyone's in a trance, right? They're hypnotized. And the way this is done is through the fear that is created. And thus, through the fear, when people are in that state of fight or flight, they cannot engage the frontal cortex, the thinking, the critical thinking side of the brain. They just can't do it. So it's very easy for those suggestions to get implanted into the brain, and then that takes on like wildfire, right? And everyone's thinking the same way. This is like the ultimate agenda. They want everybody thinking exactly the same way so that they're easier to control.
Right.
Yeah. So this is like an actual psychosis, that has taken over the collective. Yeah. So the psychology of it, from science to the occult. Someone for whom the events of the past couple of years would not have been so surprising was the Austrian esoteric philosopher and mystic Rudolf Steiner, who died almost a century ago. Throughout the course of his life, Steiner wrote numerous books and delivered thousands of lectures on his theories, contributing greatly to the diverse spheres from architecture to education and agriculture to beekeeping. His highly unique and sometimes controversial insights and methods led to the founding of the spiritual movement known as anthroposophy, which emphasizes the existence of a boundless potential for human beings. Unlike some esoteric thinkers, Steiner saw the great importance of materialistic science, but argued that it was vital to see it only as a single aspect of reality, which should ideally be combined with what he called spiritual science, gained by mystical experience in order to present the full picture, which is kind of what we do. Right? Like we go into our sessions, we gain like our experience through sessions, and then we back that up with real science,
Right.
So it's like a combination of the two.
Yes.
After all, breakthroughs often occur when scientists receive insights from beyond the material realm, as in the famous case of James Watson, credited with the discovery of the double helix shape of DNA, which came to him in a dream featuring two intertwined serpents. Similarly, Dmitry Mendeleev created the periodic table after a dream of, quote, a table where all the elements fell into place as required, end quote. These cases go to show that not all scientific discoveries are the result of logical deduction and experimentation. I think a lot of our major scientific discoveries were less materialistically based and more spiritually based. I think a lot of our scientists have these deep insights, but they just probably don't always talk about it,
Yeah, definitely they don't.
Yeah.
There's always like something missing.
Right. In fact, Steiner, who had been on the receiving end of mystical insights since childhood, honed his clairvoyant skills to such an extent that the information he received from non-conventional sources became more than the occasional flash of insight. His quest became the establishment of methods for obtaining objective extrasensory perception, a task he considered of paramount importance, for he believed an epic battle was being fought in the spiritual realm that would have disastrous consequences for humankind unless it was addressed head on. And that's what's happening now.
Mm-hmm. It's either you see it or you don't, you know, it's hit or miss.
Right. But once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, lovely one. Anyone else want to say hello? Okay, so the spirits of darkness. His clearest warnings about the future fate of humanity came in a series of lectures delivered towards the end of his life in Dornach, Switzerland. These lectures are reproduced in the book, The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness. Although Steiner's detractors say his prose can be leaden, his lectures meandering, and his concepts difficult to grasp, he is remarkably clear and straightforward when it comes to the fate that awaits humanity. If our obsession with scientific materialism is allowed to reign free without being pulled back into balance by the counterbalancing forces of spirituality. This is most clearly illustrated in the final two lectures in the series, 13 and 14, which are respectively titled The Fallen Spirit's Influence in the World and Into the Future. Steiner posits that an unseen battle took place in the early 19th century, which certain spirits of darkness lost. These spirits were duly ejected from their heavenly realms and cast down into a more material plane of existence, i.e., here. they were cast down to the human realm.
Mm-hmm.
He is remarkably precise about when this occurred, autumn of 1879. These newly arrived spirits joined those who were already here, the ones that have been existing alongside and influencing humanity since the mythological times associated with the fall. Given that it takes time for these malign spirits to work their way through human societies, it wasn't until 1914 when their malign influence manifested in human society in the form of the First World War, a disastrous event, the cause of which still puzzles secular historians. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I've seen a being like that.
That is Ahriman.
Yeah, it looks like that character on one of the kids' movies. I don't remember what, but looks very similar.
Yeah.
Dracula like.
Yeah.
/ gargoyle / vampire. I don't know, all of it.
Yeah.
Not good.
Right. Yeah, he was carving that out of wood. He carved that because he had his own encounter with this being.
Gotcha. I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. So he says the spirits Ahriman and Lucifer have been hacking humanity for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
With Lucifer being the light bringer, intent on making us more spiritual and granting us more free will, and Ahriman doing the opposite and making us more materialistic and easier control. In simplistic terms, Lucifer is an ascending influence, which Ahriman is a descending one. Now, I want to make something clear here. This ascending influence of Lucifer is a false light.
False light, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a true organic ascension light, which is what we're seeing now so strongly in the spiritual community. This ungrounded false light and these ideas that have come down about like ascending to 5D and the new earth and things like that, those are created by the false light to unground this group of people right? Because we have the way that Steiner describes it, is that we have that Luciferic influences that's pulling us up, that into spirituality, but it's an ungrounded spirituality. And then we have Ahriman on the other end that is pulling us down into a really dense materialistic plane. And he talks about the counterbalance for both of them is being the Christ energy, which comes in the middle, which is a balanced energy.
Right.
So like when it says here that Lucifer is the ascending influence, that is true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing.
Right.
If you think about it, who do the elites and the Illuminati and, you know, all the secret societies worship? They're worshiping Lucifer, the light bringer.
Right.
Yeah. So it's these Luciferic beings that are connecting with humanity more and more these days, and really bringing in these ungrounded ideas and kind of pulling us off our footing, and like bringing us into these higher realms, but they're not balanced, they're not grounded, and they're not doing anything to help with our earthly existence. You know, these beings have never lived earthly lives before, so they don't know how to teach us how to be human. They only know how to be spiritual. So they kind of look down on us and pity us in a way, and think that we should be more like them. So I just wanted to make that distinction there, because the way this is written, it kind of makes it seems like the Luciferic beings or the false light is a kind of like a good thing because it's an ascending influence, but it's not. It's going up here, Ahriman's down here, and where we want to be is balanced and in the middle. Okay. So why should they want to do this? Well, we just don't know. It's difficult for our human minds to figure out what makes angels and demons tick. But whenever there's one of those periodic battles in the spirit world, Steiner said it tends to result in a new batch of reinforcements being thrown down into the material realm to join forces with those already here. Steiner told us that Ahriman, a demon first identified by the Zoroastrians in ancient Persia, has the upper hand right now. He had a personal beef with Ahriman and had seen his face in a vision. In fact, he was still carving a likeness of it out of wood at the time of his death. Ahriman's main aim seems to be to drag humankind into a purely materialistic state, devoid of any form of spirituality, removing even the impulse to connect with our souls. The method of attack would be through science and technology, and by taking possession of the minds of powerful and influential people in order to push through this agenda. These controlled people could be scientists, politicians, religious leaders, or anyone with any influence. Thus, demonic forces would work through these people. And the people themselves, blinded by all too human failings such as greed or a lust for power, would lack the basic awareness to recognize what was occurring.
True. Yeah, it feels like everybody is being influenced by that, like no matter where you look. I think the most disappointing one that we came across for me was the Dalai Lama. I was like, no, not you.
Yeah. And I think that was like a big shakeup, you know, with the hit of everything that happened in 2020. You really got to see where people's
side they were on.
Right. Like where they really stand in the scheme of things, like what their real thoughts, beliefs, values are. It really is like this separation of the wheat from the tares, you know, like really causing this separation to see where everyone stands. And yeah, I mean, with the whole COVID thing and, you know, trust the science, you know, everything's about trust the science, even if the science is wrong.
Right. Or there's no science to back it.
Or there's no science.
It's not
at
even,
all.
They're just using the word science, you know, like to get people to believe, because it's such
it's a belief system.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what science has become now. It's a belief system where science, you know, in science, you're supposed to have discussions about ideas. Like science is never fixed. If science were fixed, then, we would still, be believing, old beliefs that we had thousands of years ago. But no, it's meant to evolve. We're meant to question everything. It's constantly evolving. But now it's like they're dragging it down into this really dense energy where it's like, it's not even science anymore. It's just a set of belief system. And if you don't align with that, then you're canceled. You have to align with this. And it's now it's taken on its own religion, almost like a scientism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. A new religion for a new age. Background to this power grab was the rise of atheism and the worship of science and progress. Now we have a situation in which a purely materialist perspective is presented as the only explanation for all of creation. Atheism has, for some, become a de facto religion, while the rich traditions of native spirituality have been sidelined and crushed under its heel. People, animals, and in fact, all life is regarded in the same cold manner, merely receptacles of proteins and genetic code that can be exploited. The endgame of this play is presented as a bleak, monochrome world expunged of spirit and light, where humans, their minds and spirits broken, are herded together and monitored like lab animals. How are you guys doing in the chat? Last timer.
Yep.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. So this is, they're literally trying to like suck the soul out of us, like suck the spirit out of us and just make us into mechanistic, robotic, physical meat suits devoid of any, real connection to spirit.
They want us all to be NPCs in their meta.
Exactly that. So it says we can now see how this scenario is being expedited. The CEOs of tech corporations are viewed almost as saints or bodhisattvas, dangling the carrot of eternal life in the form of uploading the data contained within our brains onto microchips. Mm-hmm. At the same time, politicians, corporate scientists, civil servants, and economists are regarded as technocratic engineers tasked with ensuring the smooth functioning of the juggernaut of the material economy. Free will? The implicit assumption is that this will be unnecessary once the AI-powered algorithms, which know us better than we do, reach escape velocity. At this stage, human life would have no intrinsic value, and the shells of our former selves would be occupied by the demonic army that Steiner warned us was waiting for its moment. So it's like we talk about all the time, like with the shots and the souls not being able to anchor in the bodies, that's what they're being used for these other entities to take over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking away our God spark and disconnecting us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So glad you guys are here. Okay. In the blood. This is the part I thought was really interesting because I didn't hear this before. He says, okay, so we know that Steiner talks about the shots, right? And this is where we get into that. Some people say that Rudolf Steiner predicted a shot would appear, which would be the delivery system for the final defeat of humankind. In light of the clandestine efforts made over the last 2 years to inject almost everybody on the planet with a gene editing treatment, his prescience seems remarkable. But how true is it? Amazingly, Steiner was remarkably clear by his own standards about the physical process by which this takeover would occur.
Mhm.
He states in his final lecture, The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness, that the spiritual world where entities such as angels, demons, and archangels dwell is within the human blood. He meant this quite literally, saying, both the archangels and the angels had their dwelling place in the blood, as it were. Truly, the blood is not something merely for chemists to analyze. It is also the dwelling place of entities from higher worlds.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not surprised in this world. I mean, like, it's just another thing. Like, but yeah, it would make more sense about how, like where we call it possession. Like, this is just another kind of form of possession, a little more like really obviously deeply ingrained possession. Um, but yeah, it makes sense. Like when you talked about the wheat and the tares, like who is possessed by what? And if it's in our blood and we see it with like, the different types of people, like the NPCs or the narcissists, the empaths, all of that, it is very telling about, I guess it's already in your blood whose side you're playing for.
Oh,
I would like to think though that, there is
I
hope
like that
for,
take on it. I like that take.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
eating. Just coping here.
Inner child's coping.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, like if that's how if we're already predestined, you know, despite what we've seen maybe in sessions, like, hijackings or things like that. I do think though that those with, I guess I'll call it like good blood can get brought on to the other side, like the dark side. That's just like the another form of possession. I think you're supposed to be going that path, but that's why there's so much darkness that's trying to infringe upon these light people, the light workers, or whatever you want to call them, onto the dark side. So
yeah.
and by doing the shot, for one thing, apart from all the other environmental things that may be coming into the, like that we're just like bombarded with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was interesting because you and I, especially, we always talk about how it all comes back to self. We're always coming back to self. Everything comes back to ourselves. And if we take that even to another level and think that, could these entities or beings actually be contained within us? If we know that the whole universe, if we have that belief that the whole universe resides within us, then that would include everything.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something more to explore there. And, I think it's interesting too, because I was thinking about Julia, Karen's daughter, who can, we were doing some practice, like psychic kind of things with her. And the way she was reading crystals, especially like this piece of celestite, which, she knew nothing about, but it's supposed to, connect you with the angels. And she knew nothing about that. But when she viewed it, she said there were angels in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. To think that maybe angels could be contained. Angels and demons could be contained within our blood.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, but definitely more to explore there. So with that said, he speculated that the delivery mechanism would be in the form of a shot injected directly into our bodies. He says, today in 1917, bodies are vaccinated against one thing and another. In future, children will be vaccinated with a substance, which it will certainly be possible to produce And this will make them immune so that they do not develop foolish inclinations connected with spiritual life.
Mm.
Foolish here, of course, in the eyes of the materialists.
Right.
So, yes, he did talk about the shots. And when this first kind of came up in 2020, like a lot of people were finding his quotes and, talking about it, because it does seem like they were created for the sole purpose of really disconnecting us from spirit, disconnecting us from, we'll just use the word God or source, creator, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has a different thing these days. But the ultimate inexpressible source from which we all emanate, disconnecting us from that, disconnecting us from our intuition, from that the being, our souls, really, our spirit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so he goes on to say that it would block off any communication from the spirit world, meaning no messages or impulses would be able to get through from the spirits of light, whose aim is always to help humanity progress and fulfill our destiny. Positive impulses, which were once transmitted to us, would be permanently locked out by the shot, and instead, the hapless victims would only be able to receive the impulses coming to them from disruptive sources, which we can imagine today might include the media, the education system, and even established religion.
Mm-hmm.
There would be great confusion, he says, and Ahrimanic forces will turn people's thoughts upside down and inside out. Everything that was once good and sensible will appear evil and crazy, while everything that was once considered insane and evil will be presented as sensible and good.
Yeah. Furthering the inversion that we're already in. It's like the shot is like another anesthetic or another level up in the amnesia.
Just gonna let Coco in.
Yeah. It feels like it's all about like more, furthering the amnesia that we come in as souls, like not even remembering anything. So getting into that deception and program. And then I feel like this, like where we're at now in this stage, it's like they're just pushing it to the level so that people are at a point of no return where they cannot remember anymore because they're just functioning on programs. And, while their soul essence is out, it's existing based only on their programs. So more anesthetic and more amnesia.
Unless people are conscious. Like there are people walking around who have received it and had no idea, don't notice a difference in their life. Everything goes on as normal. But then there are people who receive it who do notice, who are conscious enough to feel the effects that are happening within them. And they have described this feeling. They always say, I feel disconnected. I feel disconnected from God. That is the general experience for those that do notice, like my thinking's not right. Something is happening that is just really off.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. The thing that blows my mind is that people like who drop dead from it or who get sick from it their mind doesn't even go. I would say majority of them don't even go to this.
No.
It's crazy.
Right. Because it's been so long since they received it, say it's like a month, 2 months, 3 months, even 6 months later. They're not going to go back and attribute it to that.
Right.
I mean, there's been 3 people that just, dropped dead in my neighborhood in the last month or 2.
Right.
Like that's not normal, and people they're not relating it to the shot because it's been so long, that period of time is there. Yeah. Yeah. And here's what I want to say before we move on about the shot issue and the inversion that's happening, right? It's the evil and crazy is good and sensible, and those kind of things, like the complete inversion of everything good. It's anti-life, this anti-life agenda that is really trying to take hold. If you have taken, or you or your loved ones have taken the shot and regret it now, I believe wholeheartedly that it is 100% possible to override that. Because if there's one thing I know, is that the human body is the most technologically advanced device on this planet. And we have the power, in connection with ourselves, our higher selves, to override that. You know, the study of epigenetics tells us that even if there's gene editing that has happened, I believe that we have the power to override that, to reverse that, and to heal ourselves, to regain our sovereignty, even from the, you know, the nanotechnology and all of that. I really believe that we can do that, you know, using energetic work and physical means, mental, you know, it's a whole process that needs to be done. But I do believe 100% that it's possible. So if it's happening to you, please don't give up hope.
Yeah.
You know, reach out to us. We can help you. Because I know that some people that have gotten it and are regretting it and are feeling these kind of effects are almost like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And the last thing we want is for anyone to take their own life.
Right.
When it is possible for you to regain your sovereignty, it's just going to take some work.
Yeah.
So don't give up on yourself. Okay. So this part is interesting too. Here comes like the squids and the like octopus beings that have come into our consciousness. And Karen and I have seen these in our sessions over the past couple of years. Okay. So Squid Games, from Watiko to the Matrix. Does this all sound implausible? The ramblings of a long dead mystic? Many will no doubt say that it does, and that there are more earthly and plausible explanations for the psychic epidemic which has gripped the world. Perhaps Steiner was speaking metaphorically after all. Some may reason. Nevertheless, I don't think he was, by the way. Nevertheless, the phenomenon to which Steiner alluded bears striking similarities to the Native American concept of the demonic force they call Watiko. The author Paul Levy has written extensively about this, defining it as a contagious psycho-spiritual disease of the soul, a parasite of the mind that is currently being acted out en masse on the world stage via collective psychosis of titanic proportions.
That's
wow.
a line.
That's
yeah. That's so fucking true.
It's so on point. Yeah.
Yeah. That.
Yeah.
And make a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. So listening to a recent legalized freedom. I was going to wear that shirt tonight. Isn't that wild? Yeah. Legalized Freedom podcast entitled War on Humanity. Emma Farrell, a plant healer who uses shamanic techniques to access inner realms, made the observation that she and others in the same field had seen a veritable horde of spiritual parasitic entities attached to people over the last 2 years, as if a floodgate had been opened and they had poured through. These entities, she says, come in all shapes and sizes, but there are 2 very common and recognizable ones, one of which is squid-like. These squid-like beings, she says, attach themselves to unprotected people and harvest their spiritual energy by causing division and discord among us.
Very true.
Yes. This struck me as interesting, as we've seen this squid archetype move into human consciousness over the past few years, not least becoming apparent through popular culture. Many people have reported having dreams of octopus or squid-like creatures, and artists such as Peter Jankowski have painted pictures of these visions. Indeed, the villainous machines that control humans and harvest their energies in the Matrix movies look like robotic squids. While one of the top Netflix series was Squid Game, a grim and violent survival thriller that posits human nature as intrinsically barbaric. What's more, the resurgence in popularity of H.P. Lovecraft's supernatural tales of horror from the deep adds another tentacled layer to the Rugo's cake. Do you want to talk about what you've seen in sessions? Because we've seen these things in sessions, these octopus and squid-like beings. And interestingly enough, recently I've been doing a lot more research into the archons, into the demiurge, and it seems to me that the demiurge, well, can appear as a godlike figure, like a man with white hair and a beard and white robes, like that whole archetype.
Mhm.
He can appear like that, but when his true form comes forward, it's an octopus-like being with tentacles.
Yeah.
Which we've seen before in sessions. Like we saw one that was actually over a whole city. It was New York, I believe.
Oh,
right?
yeah. There was a lot of dark energies there in New York City, like Manhattan type area.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, usually like these beings, they're really like, yeah, really dark, high level. And they use the tentacles to pretty much like go and suction themselves into the person, like in their field, just to pretty much suck the life out of them, exactly like how they're describing it here. But yeah, it's usually I have to cut the arms off and to pull them off. And actually, sometimes I could hear the suction like coming off as I'm taking the arm off the field.
Right.
It's gross.
Yeah. It's interesting that in the Matrix, they portray these beings as these squid-like inorganic entities, which many people say the archons are like inorganic entities, like AI connected with AI.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really interesting piece to that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then you see how that's coming into the culture with like Squid Game, like what they're just
Right.
they're just showing you in all of these movies and shows like how much humanity is being controlled.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay.
And they call it fiction and entertainment, right?
Right. Right. So I wonder, like was there a portal opened or something that allowed more of these beings in? Or why are we seeing it more? Is it this just that our defenses are so down that is a lot like we're weaker because of everything that has happened over the past 2 years that are allowing them to more of an entrance? Because in order for them to get in, there has to be something there.
Right.
Fear, anger, rage, something that's like an opening for them to come in.
Yeah. They have a parasitic feel to them too. So, because we're like this whole world is infested with parasites. And on top of it, like you had said, that they inject people with these parasitic type things, right? So,
Right.
you can go on and
Yeah.
elaborate.
Yeah. So in the shots themselves, we've seen doctors come forward that have found actual parasites within the vials and they're being injected into people. So there you go with like, the connection with Steiner and the blood and these parasites actually being injected into the blood.
Right.
So it kind of comes full circle in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the slides that you showed last time, like in the videos where we talked about this stuff, and it looks like it has like these multiple arm things, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like a little tiny octopus or squid.
Or spider or whatever, like
Yeah.
anything with multiple arms.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the other ones that were found by the Polish doctor, I forget his name now, but they also had, it was like almost like a head like that thing, but long tentacles that came out of it. And he said that those that he found, those parasites were inorganic. They were like, they were synthetic. They were not organic beings. So
what is organic anymore?
right. Well, there is this, that's what they want. They want this merge between the inorganic and organic to occur. Right. Yeah. So they talk about Goldman Sachs and this being called the great vampire squid, wrapped around the face of humanity, relentlessly jamming its blood funnel into anything that smells like money. The description is apt after all. What is the purpose of an investment bank other than to turn every aspect of the secret world into a monetized asset that can be traded, exploited, and leveraged? So the path back to sanity. Could this manifestation of a squid octopus archetype into human consciousness be what Steiner was warning us about? Are there really spiritual entities within our blood that could account for billionaire technocrats' obsession with injecting substances into us that are said to contain nanoparticles we know very little about? And how does this sit with the psychospiritual disease of Wetiko outlined by Paul Levy and the concept of mass formation psychosis being talked about in the alternative media? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the nexus of these concepts, with the implicit suggestion that we should not rest in our deep inquiry into the manner of the affliction that is currently so prevalent across the world. Only by doing so can we hope to find the necessary tools and weapons to fight back against it. Or maybe the Ahrimanic demons that Steiner warned us about, the Wetiko mind parasites Paul Levy writes of, and the tentacled entities that have squirmed into our collective consciousness via popular culture are all playing on the same team. If so, what does our team look like? And how do we win this game? Perhaps the fight is a necessary one at this juncture in human development, and that by defeating these spirits of darkness, we can progress to a higher level. Whatever the case, referring back to the old adage alluded to earlier, people, it's said, might go mad in crowds, but the path back to sanity happens one person at a time.
True.
Yeah. So those are good questions. What does our team look like?
Well, it don't look like very much. It looks like it's really hard and scarce to find people, but they are coming out. They are starting to, really come out of the darkness to be like, okay, what the fuck is going on? We need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Nice to see it. That's really refreshing because it's not just like the what we've been seeing before, when the pandemic hit, all that junk that they were just kind of pushing us in there, and no one's really fighting for any rights. We're just kind of waiting for the plan to unfold.
The plan, yeah.
The whole plan, and then the whole plan did unfold because here we are. That is probably the plan. No savior,
I was watching a video to that point. I was watching a video with Corey Good earlier, and they were asking, well, what about the alliance? What happened to the alliance?
Yeah, he's like, oh,
and he's
busy.
He basically said that they fell apart, that they can't do it because the forces that they're up against are just too big for them and they're worn out. So it's up to us.
Okay, well, that's people. Actually some damn truth right there. At least someone saying it.
Right.
Because you have to keep asking, how often do we have to ask?
Right. There's so much disinformation being put out there in order to disempower you. On the surface, it sounds empowering. But underneath, if you feel and look deeper into it, it's not. like this whole idea that somehow the Galactic Federation are fighting for you and are going to free humanity, and that the elites gave themselves over in Antarctica and they were taken off planet. Like, that is literally all nonsense.
Oh my God,
and
yeah.
that's so not true.
Right.
It's so not true.
So
You
not.
have to be careful, like, and just, use that as a way to practice your discernment too, because, like, of course people want to believe those things. You want to believe the war is over and the light has won and, all of those things, but that's not necessarily the reality of what's happening here
At all. We're so far from that. You could see it. You can't. That's what boggles my mind. I go, how do you not see it? Not you guys, but how do they not see it? But yeah, it's crazy.
Because there's trauma there. It's difficult for people to look at these heavy topics when there's trauma there, because what happens, this topic would get labeled fear-based.
Yeah.
They would say that we are fear-based because that's triggering their own fear. That doesn't mean that information is neither, fear or not fear. Like, it's what's triggering in you. And if you're triggered by that and it's creating fear within you, that's for you to look at and say, why is this triggering fear within me? Why can't I hold this information?
Right. Asking the right questions, They would say that we're like the low vibrational people.
Right. Instead of saying, I'm just not going to look at that because it's fear-based.
Right. That's what our name should be called. Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen's Low Vibration.
But that's what we're here to shine a light on those things so that we can, work through them instead of just ignoring them. You don't get anywhere by keeping your head in the sand. If you don't know who your enemy is, how are you even going to create a team, or how are you even going to fight back? How are you going to free yourself if you don't know what you're
fighting? We are one. Don't know. Okay. That's how they argue it. Right.
Right. Well, this is what was they were talking about in the article with the de-individuation. So it's this whole idea of like, we are one in the hive mind, right. And no one's allowed to have
creating a different hive mind.
Right. So the Luciferic energies and the way they work are creating that idea, we're all one idea on this end. And the we are one idea is working on this end with the Ahrimanic influences. Like, you're not allowed to have any ideas that differ from the hive. Yeah. Right. So you have both extremes up here and down here. And very few people that are functioning in the middle here in the Christed energy. And this is where we're here to like bring balance, like balance between those two, so that we're not getting swept away into those false light energies that are doing nothing for our spiritual growth, but just repeating like the same kind of concepts and keeping us out of our bodies and connecting with other beings. And then we don't want to be trapped down here in this dense materialistic realm where, they're just like packing in that density and not allowing for expansion. We really have to be somewhere in the middle and be connecting through the Christed energy to help bring balance, because things are just crazy out there.
Yeah, either side you go on. I mean, I understand like on like I feel like we've experienced both extremes and now we're just coming right in where we need to be. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to hold people like I guess because like I have family and friends that are like on that end, I guess the harmonic end, not knowing it. They're all good-hearted people, but it's not, they're just in the rat race like everybody else. And then I don't really have spiritual to that degree with, yoga and Bali type people. I feel like we're just here in the middle, like just looking and wanting to seek the truth, no matter how painful the truth is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's difficult to look around at our world today and think that there's not some kind of darker influence here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's really difficult to deny. And if you think about the word evil, it's live backwards. It's an inversion of life. You know, that's really all it is. It's an anti-life. It's an inversion of life. Everything is inverted. And I think that this reality is it's difficult to see because things look nice on the surface. It's only when you start to look underneath and dig a little bit that you start to see the inversion and the deception that's at play here. And how these beings that we cannot see. There's another article that I want to review another time that's really interesting because it shows these pictures of these like amoeba like beings in the sky. Like people learned how to take photos of them and actually see them, and this is what they think could possibly be these archonic beings. But yeah, sovereignty is the most important thing to leave this body with. Absolutely. And before we could ever become one, we have to individualize. That's what we're here to do, you know, like really sink into our realness, our authenticity, who we really are without all the layers of programming on top of it. That, you know, without the script, who are we without the script, and finding out who that is, becoming an individual. We're not meant here to be all one. Are we all connected? Yeah, of course. But and you intrinsically, you know, you feel that, but you can't just group everybody all into one and say that we're not different at all. We're all different. We're all unique parts of that one, and we're all here to be those unique parts of that one and be individuals.
Yes.
So, and be sovereign. Sovereignty is the most important thing. And I I really do believe that people who have received the shot, if they have the will and determination to reverse it, that they can. I
Yeah.
believe that. I think we can.
It requires
We're
them to
so much more
take
powerful.
responsibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It takes self responsibility.
Lots of responsibility and belief like that you can, and taking back your power. It's like a whole thing. Everything that that shot has done to, you know, flip you upside down, you're going to have to take the flip and flip it back. So, yeah. We were saying that we can do so much on the energetic side, like when we do a clearing for that, you know, for those who have had the shot. But it takes a certain point of responsibility for the human to be able to purge and cleanse the body completely, like detox the body completely to regain that sovereignty.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, you know, we can do the vaccine clearing plus the remote spirit release together to remove any entities that are being called in from that signal as well, and then go through the body and clear it energetically. And then, you know, after that, we could even go deeper into a hypnosis session to see what your own higher self can do for in that clearing. Yeah, and see what needs to be done there. We can do a lot with energy work in different forms. So yeah, there's always hope. There's always hope.
And I always look to, like, when we do like shot clearings, to make sure, like, to see if you've already been plugged into the metaverse, because then we can unplug you from there.
Yeah.
There's so much unplugging.
Yeah.
Plug you back into yourself, because like that's the biggest plug that they've unplugged, is the disconnect within.
Yeah.
God, I just want to eat chips.
So that question, how do we win? What do you think about that?
I'm like, fuck all y'all. I'm gonna like blast myself out of here and go back to my God. I what was the question again?
How do we
For
win
real?
against these forces?
I think there's only so much we can do. You know, like we come here as way showers by doing the work ourselves. We share the information when we get it. We plant the seeds. We do the work. And if people catch it and it resonates, like let's pray that it does, then, you know, I feel like that's all it really has been for us. We can't heal nobody. We can't take you by the hand and be like, okay, come. You have to make that active choice to come on the side of, you know, you have to pick the side, or because that's what it is. You have to pick the path that you want to take.
Yeah.
Understanding really what the spiritual path is.
What is the spiritual path?
Oh God, I'm still learning, eating my chips. There's a lot in the spiritual path. But again, like the bottom line is coming back into yourself and healing yourself, healing your vessel, clearing out all the stuff, reconnecting with your God self. Really letting go, like how we saw it in that video of that hypnosis session, you know, like when they hit what's it called? When that person was with the gatekeeper.
Oh, in the dome one?
Yeah, the dome one, like how to get the key out of here. And it's just like you got to purify the body, you got to surrender, like all the things that are hard for human self to anchor in. Yeah, there's just so many things. It's not just one thing, it's everything.
Right. It's surrendering your attachments to this world. Because if you have attachments to this world upon leaving, you're less likely to really fully be in your sovereignty. And that's
a manipulation. They'll use that manipulation against you.
Right. Because you might have children or pets or like family you're really close to that you don't want to leave. So, you know, you have to take all of those things into account and be prepared upon leaving the body.
I like how you call it, like hokey pokey. You do the hokey pokey.
Yes. Oh my God, Melissa, thank you for saying that. That was on my mind today. The law of one, raw. Oh my God.
Shit. Sorry, there was a bug that was next to me.
Yes, I totally agree with you. There's definitely some kind of connect. Ra is definitely a high level, really dark being. I don't know if it's necessarily connected with Lucifer or not, but definitely really high level. He could be a Lucifer being because of that's what the material feels very much false light to me.
Oh God, yeah. That one too. Like I remember I tried to read it because what's that guy who's super obsessed with it? Who worked with Corey Good? The one who does the videos. He's like,
oh, Wilcock?
Yeah. He's like, I'm David Wilcock. Yeah, him. He was always talking about Ra, like the law of one. And I remember I'm like, okay, you don't have an open mind. I read the first line and I couldn't fucking do it. So again, it just tells me, I'm like, nah, you know what? If you're meant, like, if it doesn't capture me, like, it's just not, my body's like resistant, like it just feels it. So I take that right away.
Yeah. I tried to read it too, and I couldn't get through it. What a lot of people have seen in some of these abductions, you know, there are researchers that have looked really closely at a lot of people who have been abducted, and Ra seems to be one of the entities who is at the head of it. So there's, you know, a hierarchy, of course, but Ra's very much overseeing what's happening there. One of the entities that seems to be attached to these people and sucking the life force from them. So. You met Wilcock? Yeah, he's super ego.
Oh my God, he's funny.
He's hilarious.
Yeah. He's really, like really funny. 10 camera angles. Yeah.
I could see him being very, super ego is
Arrogant,
a good
arrogant.
word.
Yeah, totally. Let's see.
Yeah, if you think, Melissa says, if you think about it, the 95% evil is okay with God, or 51% good. It's crap. Our true God is
Which
only
God?
love.
Our true God is really love, but the God that the 95% evil are okay with is like the inverted God here, the God of this matrix.
Right.
So yeah, of
Right.
course they'd be good with him because he totally feeds them all.
Right.
He feeds them the people.
Right. So the way I understand it is our whole universe is corrupted. It's a mimicked version of the real universe. So the whole thing is corrupted, and the God who's at the top of it is also corrupted. And every time we pray to God or any of the gods, whether they're Hindu or any of the million gods there are, we're feeding into that matrix. Anytime people are reading the law of one and worshiping Ra and feeding that energy into him, we are what's keeping this alive with our energies of worship and prayer, and giving our power away to these entities outside of ourselves. That's what's keeping this system alive.
Anything outside of us.
Yeah.
That's all it's about. It's just to take the attention outside of you, to focus on something else other than yourself. That's where the disconnect happens. And we're all, like, a lot of us are born already into that program.
Yeah. Yeah. These religions were created by archonic forces to do just that, to siphon our energy. The more energy we're putting into these things. And it's funny. Well, it's really not funny, but it's really not funny. What is this guy's name? I forget his name, but I came across, he's an Italian. I think he's an Italian. Anyway, I'll link it down below later. He's an Italian regressive hypnosis therapist, and he does a lot of sessions examining these different things. Where was I going with that? I totally lost my train of thought. What were we just talking about?
You were saying that it was funny, but it wasn't funny.
Oh, how these beings, can show up as these beautiful beings of light, these false light beings. And really underneath of that, they are reptilians or who knows what, octopus or squid-like beings. And that's real. We see that all the time, like with people who are connecting with what they think are ninth dimensional Pleiadians, and really they're not. And these beings can also, oh, that's what it was. Let me just write that down. These beings can also give you the feeling of love, of light. They can actually create that. So even a reptilian can create those feelings, but that might not be real.
Yes, they can mimic.
They can mimic, just like we see with the alien love bite scenarios. They can mimic and create those feelings between people that aren't real. They're being created artificially. So what I was saying was that, so in his sessions, like he will communicate with these beings, and they were telling him that they can create miracles, they can create healings, and they do that to keep us kind of strung along, because if we were totally, like down and out, then they wouldn't be able to feed from us. So they have to kind of keep us going a little bit. So they will do healings and perform miracles and things like that. And the whole system of religion is created in order to feed them our light. So every time you pray to any kind of entity outside of yourself, or ask that, also asking entities for help. If you're in a situation and you say, oh my God, help me, you could call in a being that is going to attach and suck the life out of you. So you have to be really careful with your words, because we're creating contracts all the time. Our words are spells. So be really careful about, asking for help outside of yourself, because that could potentially call in an entity. And
Totally.
that's real. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good comments today.
Yeah, really great comments. Saturn.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of that.
Yeah.
It was the full moon yesterday?
Yeah.
Ugh, we
think
should
it
have done
was
our
yesterday.
parasite cleanse yesterday.
I did the zapper.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I was debating whether I was going to take an Ivor.
Mm.
I should have done it 2 days before the full moon so I could kill those motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's true about the Amen Ra. Yeah. When Christians say amen.
Yeah. Yeah. What a mind fuck. It's like the whole thing.
Yeah. I watched this really brilliant what I don't even know whether to call it a film, and I don't know, but it's all about the words we use. It's called The Golden Web, and it's on a channel called let me see. The Golden Web. It's on Chiron Last. Let me see if I can share it in the, but it's all about the words we use and how important they are. You guys would really like this. It's really kind of mind-blowing.
Oh, appreciate you too. Sam G would like to know more about the parasite cleanse. Well, how do we get on that rabbit hole? I think because I was talking to Tina's cousin and she was telling me about these parasite cleanses that people were doing on TikTok. And I was like, oh my God, maybe that's the next level, the next step, because Tina's been pretty much like a guinea pig on her own health because of all the all the illnesses that she's had, and working her way to energetically cleanse, doing all the medical medium and trying to get herself back to health, getting rid of the heavy metals and all the things that our bodies are polluted with. So yeah, her cousin was telling me about this parasitic thing that everyone on TikTok were doing. So it just totally made sense that, if we do it to the animals, then why the hell don't humans do parasitic cleanses? Yeah. So how did that lead? We were just you went down to look for things like that.
Yeah.
And came across what are the things that you use? There's wormwood. That's the if you want to talk about what you've done.
Black walnut and wormwood. What I really love is something called the zapper.
Yeah, I need to get me one of them.
Yeah. It's this little device, really light, and you put it on your skin, and it sends a frequency through your body that kills the parasites. And it's really easy to use and highly effective. If you want
You could link that too down below.
more on, for all my links on parasite stuff, go to our video called Archonic Parasites, and all of the links are there.
Oh yeah, look that up, Sam. The Archonic Parasite video that we did.
Yeah. That video, I had so much more to share, but something weird was happening with my technology. My technology has
its own parasites.
Has its own parasites. I think it's we're always being monitored, and they really did not want us to talk about that specifically for some reason.
Yeah. Because they don't want us to detox. They don't want us to get healthy. And also too, what we were seeing, which you also got validated from the things that we saw in clearings, was when we clear the homes or things like that, we always clear out internet connection, the Wi-Fi, the frequencies, because there are things what do they put in they shoot through frequencies. They shoot viruses, bacterias, nanobots, or whatever the case is, through them. And because it's invisible and nano,
It's digitized.
yeah,
It's
it's all
just a
coming in our field.
code. It's code. So we're all like, and we're just energetic beings, right? And they have hacked our system to the point where they can literally just send through a digitized code through the body to the body. Say you like open up an email and get a code, that code's coming into your system and you're getting that, virus or parasite or whatever.
Did they say they could do it via text too?
Via
Anything.
text. Yeah, anything.
Email.
Yeah, email, text. It could just come in on your Wi-Fi router.
Try
these
to
things
turn
are
that
real.
off at night.
I had some really crazy experiences with parasites, and especially when I went to actually purge myself from them, I got attacked again. And it was like, the matrix just knows. It knows when you're about to do something that's good for your health, and it strikes again,
Right. All my parasites, like when I took the ivermectin, all died like while we were watching like our show. And then I felt like an energy shift within my body that like indicated that something had really died inside. And then out came the diarrhea. Like I had several runs to like little runs to the toilet for to purge, and then a massive like body tremor for like a half hour of body shakes from like I don't know, I guess just releasing that energy.
Oh, also something else. I'm not sure if it's good for parasites or not. I guess if the parasites are in the blood, it would be, but MMS or chlorine dioxide. I have a link for Jim Humble's book that I'll put in the description too when we're done this. Let me write that down. That's also really great remedy for the shot, because what it does is it goes into the blood right away. So you drink it, it goes into the blood and it oxidizes whatever is in the blood. So it's going to kill any pathogens that are in there, and help to, it's like an anticoagulant.
Like a purifier.
So it's a blood purifier, basically. So that is one of the major things. Like if anyone has gotten the shot, definitely look into that. There's a video I have saved on Odyssey, so I'll link all of those in the description. Also for parasites, look into Dr. Hulda Clark. She has a great book and a lot of information out there on that. And she's, done a ton of research. She basically says that parasites are basically the root cause for all disease. I'm not so sure about that, because I feel like I'm just not sure if that's really true or not, because there's a theory that says that viruses, bacteria, and parasites and fungi are all like naturally created by our body as a way to break things down. Sometimes those things get out of balance and we do create too much of them.
Well, maybe those are the organic viruses, whereas they are giving us inorganic viruses.
That is true. That is very true, because, things like EBV and the Lyme bacteria and stuff, like those are definitely inorganic, some kind of technologies. And what they can do too is when you're going to treat them, they'll shift into another dimension and they'll come back when you're done treating yourself. So those can be really tricky kinds of pathogens that you have to watch out for. Yeah, mindset is really huge.
Melissa has ringing in ears. Very long time, no medical reason. I hear more than one ringtone.
It could be energetic. It could be a portal or something like around your head. It could be a million really different things, but I suspect that it could be something energetic happening in your field. Anyone else have anything they want to talk about or any questions?
Yeah, we appreciate y'all coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can, I mean, like, just if you can like the video, it'd be nice. Share it if you want, if you feel called to. Even comment in the comment section just to say that you are present.
Boost the algorithm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe some people just need to know about this video if you feel that it would be helpful for them just to
because
broaden their horizons.
YouTube actively suppresses us and our channel.
Yeah,
I
and
know
we don't
that
even
sounds crazy.
I know we only have 700 subscribers but they've removed likes, they've removed subscribers, they've removed comments, they've censored us twice. They've well, they took down 2 videos, let's say, in that way, censored,
They
but
remove
censoring.
views from our videos.
I know. Yeah, the video that Tina did on the Is Earth a School, like the one that just came out, that became a popular one. It was 1,300, like when I had left from visiting her, and then when I came home, she said we're back at 1,100, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
How does that work?" They removed
Yeah.
200 views.
Yeah.
And slowly on the climb again, but it's like, why? What's the point?
Right. Right. They've been doing that for a long time. Like ever since we started. And I think I really don't know why. I really don't know why. I mean, are we that threatening to the system? Maybe we are.
Why? Because we read texts and because we talk about our personal experiences.
Yeah. Because that's empowering for people to know that they can heal themselves, you know?
Yes.
And to understand the deception of the matrix. Because when you understand it, then you can set yourself free.
Right.
Right. I remember back when it was a session that was actually being censored. They took away hundreds of views off of that session so that people wouldn't see it.
So dumb. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, if you haven't subscribed, we appreciate if you could help us out there. And even though I do promote not to subscribe, because we like to keep our family small. So
Well, as long as you're like true family and not trolls, then we welcome you. You know, it's just like it's good that people are open to this kind of information. I'm glad that we're connecting with new people who have come over and like are open to hearing the things we have to say, because the things we have to say aren't always easy to hear, you know. And
I guess because we're so I guess it's a normal for us, so I don't really see how it could be. But then it's true. You know, if I were to bring this information to my family, it's already like, what are you talking about? I remember my sister and her husband were talking about, like, I guess a couple that they knew that separated, and I was just like, so what's the deal, like what happened there? I was just asking, and they're like, oh, he like kind of went like crazy on her or something, because like he was hearing noises and he was like so convinced that it was an alien. And I was laughing and I was like, it fucking probably was, but okay. And I was like, well, if I said that to Tina, she'd totally be like, yeah, totally, you know, like they're like, yeah, but you guys have to both be on the same page or whatever. I was like, yeah. I go, well, I guess that's a good indication that they shouldn't be together if they're not on the same page with topics like that, you
or
know,
if she
where they're
doesn't
not.
believe him that he's
Yeah,
potentially
then
being
you're already
abducted.
crazy. Yeah, cuckoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, well,
No,
Tina
like
and I
those
are
things
cuckoo
really
together.
happen.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons why we really like talking to each other, because no one else would listen.
I know. And here we are.
Yeah.
That's funny. It's true.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks for sharing our videos. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, we really appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, it means a lot to us that you guys resonate. Because again, like we were just willing, like if we could just talk to one person or just get through to someone, maybe that'll be the share. That'll get the ball rolling. Because like I think people, if they're still on the fence, at least maybe they can consider like new information or something that's really unconventional, or because I mean this information is suppressed.
Big time.
Like, yeah, you can't even really I can't even find that information. Because I like it comes to Tina naturally, thankfully, because it's like when you said like, oh, I just researched so and so, and it just came up like that, and I was like, okay. So I tried to do the same thing, and I was on the third page, and I'm like, yeah, still not finding it. Like it's not on my algorithm. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, things just come to me. Like, I don't know how it happens. It just does.
It's good.
Yeah.
You're just connected to that ley line.
Yeah, I guess.
Is there anything else? Well, thank you very much for coming. We hope to catch you guys again in our next video. If you have any topics in mind, please leave a comment or email us at quantumhealingwithtina, TENA, @gmail.com. We will answer your emails. We love hearing from people. And we like getting video ideas,
Yeah.
that can help you, I guess, like in your research, and we love that you guys come on and share your information with us, because we're always willing to open up our own minds to new information and putting our puzzle together. So yes, absolutely, Melissa. We'd love to hear from you. Whatever you would like to share with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very much on the wavelength of the Gnostics as well.
What does that mean?
Like the secret gospel of John and the archons and yeah.
Okay. Those are big words.
All right, my little baby wants to go outside, so I have to go.
Okay, everybody. We thank you so much again. And we will see you all in the next episode. Peace.